doesn't define me. Success doesn't define me. Part of what defines me is how I treat people and how I serve others.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. And adversity is just a moment in time in your life. Don't let it define you.
Don't let your current situation define you.
Correct.
Whether good or bad, would you say?
I would say so, because if you let a good period of your life define you, you might get a little cocky, a little self-assured, maybe spend too much money, maybe get in too much debt. I think it's good to be humble. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't thank God for the blessings I have in my life. When I do a search now for comps, all I see are a bunch of red arrows. Everybody's dropping their prices.
Yeah.
So as we enter this down cycle, we have to be proactive. We have to get ahead of it and not have our clients nibble and chase down the market gradually.
Even before the home went on the market, there was a semblance of this conversation with the client. So what are the best practices when having these conversations with clients? I am really looking forward to this conversation here with you because I love learning from people that have substance and have life experience and have gone through different things in life that has enriched their understanding and has given them perspective. The reason I like it so much is because I can leverage that from you. And I can implement that, and that's, I believe that that's what wisdom is, when you acquire other people's knowledge and experience and then can implement it, into your own life. So you can avoid some of the ditches, not saying life's perfect, but that's why I really enjoy these conversations. And I know we speak, when we're out in the field or we're see each other at, at the office or whatever.
We had a great conversation at the last photo shoot you guys did for us, which came out great, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, it was good, but actually sitting down and doing all that and memorializing it in this way, I like that too.
Cool.
So, I was reading a lot of I was just doing some research, on just all that. Your life's been a journey, brother.
It's had its ups and downs, but I think everybody's life has their ups and downs, and it's all how you process it and what you take away from it. And the worst things that have happened in my life have also been the best things. So that kind of says it in a nutshell. If you hang on to the negative too long or let it define you, I think your life is not going to be very happy. But if you can understand that everything happens for a reason and learn from it and grow from it and get through it, then like they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, even having that perspective that you're just saying, you just said right now that if you just hang on a little bit, yes, it's negative right now, but that negativity or that, I wouldn't even say negativity. I would say more, what's a better word?
It's like a challenge.
Adversity.
Life has challenges, adversities.
That set of circumstances that seem adverse, if you hang on a little bit, it's going to not only be different, the circumstance is going to change, but that adversity is going to make you stronger. It's going to help you. It's going to give you perspective for life. I
agree. It's, an adversity is just a moment in time in your life. And if you let it define you, that's not a good thing. So we all have obstacles and adversities and challenges. It's how we process those. And if we can learn from it instead of hating it, look at it as an opportunity to gain some insight, some knowledge, and grow. And I'm not a young guy. And your setup for me here was, I think, a very nice way of saying that this guy's been around for a while. But even at my age, I still thirst for knowledge. I can learn from young people. I'm at a stage in my career, in my life, where I want to mentor young people. I want to pass on my knowledge. And I want to pay it forward and see other people grow and be successful. I've been very, very blessed in my career and in my life.
And I definitely want to talk to you about that. Although I first because we're talking about adversity here. And I think we'd be remiss not to point the elephant in the room and say right now we're going through our industry. It's a pretty adverse situation in
Really?
that.
I hadn't noticed.
My gosh, yeah.
I'm joking, of course.
Of course. The homes are sitting, even if you have a listing. Before it was like you have a listing, oh, you got a guaranteed paycheck in
Right.
a month, and or 15 days,
That's right.
whatever you can muster. But nowadays it seems like even if you have listings, it's not a sure bet. It's not a sure thing with, sellers being unrealistic with their prices. And so talk to me about how do you with all of this experience that you have, how do you process this current adversity?
Well, I've been at this game for about 45 years, so I am starting to date myself. But, our real estate market has historically gone up and down. It cycles. We've been in a tremendous upcycle since COVID, strangely. I would have never thought that COVID would be beneficial to us realtors. And, we don't want to capitalize on such a tragic event that took place for most of us. But it was a great market. And for the last 5 years, if you had a listing, you had gold. And you'd put it on the market and, within days or minutes or, certainly no more than a week or two, you'd sell the property maybe with multiple offers and oftentimes over your asking price. Well, our market has transitioned, so we're heading to the down cycle. And I've seen this, I can't tell you how many times over my career. So we have to adapt and we have to educate our clients. And, if we have a very expensive listing that's not getting phone calls, we're not getting showings, our open houses are lackluster, what can we do to induce interest from the public at large? And it really comes down to pricing and looking at the facts, looking at the comps. And when I do a search now for comps, all I see are a bunch of red arrows. Everybody's dropping their prices.
Yeah.
So as we enter this down cycle, we have to be proactive. We have to get ahead of it and not have our clients nibble and chase down the market gradually, where they're going to end up with far less if they wait 3 or 6 months from now.
So I think, realtors obviously know that and understand that. I think the challenge is, how do you communicate that to the client? Because I guarantee you, like, even before the home went on the market, there was a semblance of this conversation with the client. So what are the best practices when having these conversations with clients?
Well, with your client or with a buyer or with anybody, so the first best practice is to be honest and to look at the facts, because I always tell my clients, facts don't lie. Mm-hmm. If everybody's dropping their price, and if, as an example, hypothetically, properties are selling for $650 a square foot, and we're priced at $750 a foot. It's my duty, my responsibility, my fiduciary to my client to say, hey, we're not getting any traction. We're not getting any showings. If you look at the preponderance of the comps, of the evidence in our market, it's all at $650 a foot. Your home is nice. It's special, like every seller's home is. Mm-hmm. But let's be within the market. Let's not be out of the reality of our market. And let's be realistic and open to meeting the market. If you can't do that, if you need a certain amount of money and it just doesn't work to drop it to $650 a square foot, maybe we're going to lease your property out. Maybe we're going to take a rest. But if you really need to sell, and most sellers do, that's why they put their home on the market, show them the reality, be honest with them, and get them on board with meeting the market now before it slides further, because we don't know how far this is going. We have so much unpredictability in our economy, in our money markets, in our real estate market, retail products. We don't know where things are going. This is kind of an unprecedented time.
So you're saying be honest, and we better get ahead of this, because we're always going to be behind it. If we don't make these tough decisions now, then in a month from now or 2 months from now that's not the number. Now it's even lower number.
It may be even lower. So we don't want to chase down the market. Mm-hmm. And I don't just tell the client, you need to lower your price because we're too high. Mm-hmm. I put facts behind it. I run the data. I show them what's happening around them. So I'm not just pulling it out of thin air. I'm educating them. And I'm educating them because I don't want them to be their own worst enemy and wait too long and chase that market down. So if I can back up my request for a price adjustment with facts, it generally works. And case in point, I just came from a showing at my listing in Encino on Alonzo Avenue. We dropped the price $50,000. My client understands the market. We haven't been getting any calls, and I just had a showing on my way here. So it actually does work. It resonates.
Wow. So getting ahead of it is super important because, and just having those conversations. Now, do those conversations happen after you have the listing appointment or after you have, like, you've secured the contract, or do you come this aggressive or this honest when you first meet?
I try to be honest when I first meet, and a lot of times, especially we're coming out of a seller's market, so every seller has been hearing phenomenal things about 100%. Selling homes for the last 5 years. So if their expectations exceed what I tell them I think their home is worth, and they want to try it on for size, so to speak, let's do it. Let's give it a few weeks. Let's see what happens. But by and large, what I told them to begin with ends up holding true. Yeah. With a few exceptions.
Of course. And everybody wants to be the exception and believes they're the exception. So, but I like that because, you don't alienate yourself, to this, this realtor's so negative because this other realtor said, let's give it a shot.
Right.
And, here you are losing on all these listings, but, you're standing on principle. But missing out on the, on the commission checks, potential commission checks. And then later on, you just get a little bit more, aggressive with your tone and say like, hey, let's not chase the market. Okay. I understand.
Right. Yeah. I think honesty is always the best policy. And when I go for a listing appointment, I will tell the potential client what I think their home is worth. I'm not going to lie to them. I'm not going to tell them fairy tales just to get them to sign my listing contract. I want to have success for myself and for the client. So again, that's where it comes back to just telling the truth.
100%.
It sets you free, brother.
Yes, it does. The truth shall set you free.
It shall.
And we're talking about this because, it's we're talking about adverse situations. Obviously the market is adverse, but I mean, maybe you're watching this 3 years from now and it's a great market and you're like, oh, these guys were so dooms and gloom, but the market has totally shifted and changed. How long do you think this down market's going to last?
Well, again, we have so many unprecedented situations happening in our economy.
Say everything's unprecedented nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my phone's ringing. See, one of my claims to fame is I always answer, but not in the middle of an interview.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. How special that.
It's important to answer your phone. We talk about a down market. I would just like to consider it a different market, because down is kind of a negative connotation. And I don't like to latch on to things that are negative. Yes, it's challenging. It's transitioning. We have transitioned from a seller's market now to a buyer's market. So it doesn't mean we're not going to be doing business or transactions. It means we have to approach it differently. Maybe we need to work with buyers more at this point. We certainly have to educate our sellers that, the high times are over for now. So I think people will adjust. We're in that adjustment period. So the sellers are having a hard time digesting this reality. And the buyers are actually watching these down arrows, these price reductions. So they're kind of holding because they don't want to buy now and then realize they could have paid less 3 or 6 months from now.
See.
So that's an interesting dynamic taking place right now.
That's interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. Because you're right. People aren't going to jump on because they're going to be like, whoa, it's going down. Like,
right.
Let's see how far down this goes. I'm in the position to buy, but let's see if, I don't want to buy high.
Right. Nobody wants to buy high. No seller wants to sell low. But again, it's the dynamic of the market. It does go up and down. It cycles. It always has. And it always will.
Yeah.
And we've had a great ride for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a listing in the last 5 years, you were
gold.
You were making some bread.
It was guaranteed money.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, exactly. So, but historically, how long do these buyer's markets last?
You think back to 2008 when we had a mortgage meltdown, and that lasted quite some time, I mean, many years before it gradually recovered. I don't think this is going to be that severe. I think we're looking at, for a period of months, perhaps a year, but I don't think it's going to be sustained. This is typically a very good time of year to sell real estate. This is our sweet spot, if you will. But then as we get into July and August, September, we have people on vacation. Kids are going back to school.
Right.
So that's not typically that great of a time to sell a house. So we still have a little sweet spot left, but the market's transitioning. So we're not getting the calls we used to get. We're not getting the showings.
Yeah.
And we have to work a little harder and be more creative, I think.
Part of like just being young, I'd say like one of the biggest challenges of being in the season of life that I'm in right now, I have 4 young kids, like 12 and below.
You have 4?
Yeah, I have 4.
I didn't realize
Yeah, I have
that.
4 kids, 12 and below. And I'm married and, I've started, my businesses. But I would say I'm still in like the, first season of it, some of it a little bit more advanced than others. But one of the things that's difficult is not going through as much adversity as, you're saying you've gone through cycles of it, because then you understand that life is a series of cycles, right? You have your times where you're up here, whether it's financially, whether it's relationally, or even in health. And then you have your seasons where you're not doing so great. And then it's like very, very challenging. But then, and when you're in it, there's like, you're just, and you're not used to it, and you don't have this mindset. You get so stressed out and so worried, and it's so easy to, to be so fearful and just have a negative outlook on life, rather than just being like, okay, well, this is just momentary. Like, okay, this buyer's market, okay, this down market, okay, this situation that I'm having, with my wife or with my children or with my health, it's not going to last forever,
Right.
God willing.
Well, that, at the end, it will last forever. You'll be gone. But
At that point, yes. At that point, yes.
But like I said earlier, it's just a moment in time. Don't let it define you. There are challenges
That's good
in
right
life.
there. Don't let it define you.
Yeah,
Don't let your current situation define you.
Correct.
Whether good or bad, would you say?
I would say so, because if you let a good period of your life define you, you might get a little cocky, a little self-assured, maybe spend too much money, maybe get in too much debt. I think it's good to be humble. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't thank God for the blessings I have in my life. I mean, literally every day before breakfast, my wife and I hold hands, and we ask, the Lord up above to look over our children, our grandchildren. I have 5 kids, and I have 5 grandkids.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And so we say a little prayer for each of them. I have a 92-year-old mother that
wow, that's a
who's
blessing.
doing pretty darn well for her age.
Good bones. Good bones.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think about all of them. I think about my loved ones that have passed. I think about them too. But again, a day doesn't go by that I don't thank God for the blessings I have. I have a wonderful marriage, wonderful family, and I've had the privilege of helping people in real estate and making some, pretty amazing money, not every year, but many years. And I have a great life. So again, gratitude is everything to me.
And it's these cycles that I'm hearing you speak about. It's like, well, when I'm doing so great, I'm not going to let that define me, because then I do foolish decisions, like you were saying, and I spend too much because I think life's always going to be like this, because I've already defined it to be that way.
Well, you know how I learned that lesson? It happened to me.
Well, talk to me about that.
Well, I think I got a little big for my britches. I started in real estate in my 20s. I syndicated office buildings and shopping centers. I started in commercial real estate originally. Bought a home when I was in my mid-20s, a nice 3,000 square foot home, brand new, with a pool, and
Nice.
drove a Porsche, and I kind of giggle at that. I just think that was so ridiculous now, you know. But
Why was it too much? Why do you giggle at that?
because I didn't really need to do all of that. But I came from a very challenging adolescence. I was homeless as an adolescent. I lived in parks and in my car, and so I came from
How long were you homeless for?
off and on from the age of 14 to 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, I would go back home at times. Then I would stay in a park for a while.
Wow.
People don't, they look at me and they think, not you. You never went through anything like that, but I did, and it was tough. It was difficult. It was very hard to keep my head on straight during a lot of that time. It was very scary and lonely. But coming through that, and then having this success, and realizing I could buy myself a Porsche, it was like such a dichotomy.
Yeah.
Coming from one place to another in life like that.
Well, because at one point, maybe you probably did like define yourself as someone that was homeless and that was struggling through a difficult time.
Yeah.
And then you had to reach a point where you had to redefine or take away that identity.
It literally was a point where I was either going to call it quits with my life, or I was going to do something about it. And what I did is I called on my sports career. I played baseball, and I was pretty darn good at it.
Wow.
And I started comparing my life and my career to being on that baseball mound, to having the bases loaded, two men out.
Yeah.
The game's on the line, and I'm the pitcher.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I hit a lot of home runs, I had records when I was in Little League and Pony League, and I thought, if I could succeed then as an athlete, why do I have to be sad that I'm not playing baseball anymore? I don't. I'm playing baseball in a different field now.
Yeah.
My field is my life, my career.
Mm-hmm.
So I got married 1 month after I turned 20. I turned my life around. I went into sales. I started selling auto parts. Then I sold clothing, and then eventually went into real estate.
That's awesome. Good for you. Wow. So you went through this journey of, because that's a long time, like to be struggling like that.
Yeah.
That's 5 years of being on and off, homeless, sleeping in parks and, in the car, and just what that does to you as a person, it's hard to come out of that.
It was. And, it actually was sad. It was a sad place to be. But again, adversity happens to everybody. What are you going to do with it? So I used to really ponder on that a lot and I felt sorry for myself. I don't feel that way at all. That was, again, one of the worst and best things that happened to me because it gave me strength. It gave me drive. It gave me the will to succeed, to prevail, to not be that person whose life meant nothing, but to turn my life into something very important. And the most important thing my life has become is I'm a grandfather and a father of 5 kids and 5 grandkids. And
awesome.
I pass on my teachings, as much as I can without being an obnoxious, overbearing parent.
Hey, listen, but that's why it's funny that you say that, because right before you came in, I was just thinking, I was like, I know I'm doing all of these podcasts and I'm doing all this stuff. And it started being like, okay, well, let's do it to bring more attention to HSH and to staging and to Create LA. But as I'm doing this, I'm benefiting so much from these conversations because they're really changing me. Like I'm having these deep conversations with people, and I'm, that and combining it with, praying with God and, my faith in God. And so I read the Bible and what the Bible says. I feel like these past 2 years, my mindset has just been changing completely. And I appreciate these conversations. And so I think like I'm building this library of conversations that changed Daddy's life. You know what I'm saying? And so like now I'm going to have this library that my kids, when they're my age, or, when they're your age, can go back to and be like, I wonder what my dad was thinking at this age. Well, this is who I am, and this is who I was, and so,
Right.
But I think it's so awesome to be able, because the thing about that, because you said I don't want to be that overbearing grandpa. The thing about it is like I feel like there are key moments in time where every person, particularly man, craves these types of conversations. And so to have a place like, like a little library where it's like, oh, well, this topic or that topic. Oh, let's see what my dad thought, let's see what grandpa thought.
It's awesome.
So I'm built. It's like, it's kind of even a legacy piece for me. I'm 30 something talking about legacy. You see, that's what I get having conversations.
See what happens when you're hanging out with an older guy.
I love it though. I love it because going back to your story, here you are with the homeless situation. You're like, no, that's not going to define me. But then here you are stepping into massive amounts of success, and you had to learn that can't define you either.
Right. At the end of the day, it's you have to be a good person. You have to care about people, treat people the way you'd like to be treated. My clients, I care so much about them. I mean, this Encino listing I have, I said to her, if we can't sell it because the market's going down, let's rent it. She says, well, you put so much time and effort and money into it. I said, well, it makes me uncomfortable that your home is sitting vacant. She doesn't live in this home. It was left to her. I said, so if we can't sell it, let's rent it. And let's just take whatever happens first, because I want to do the right thing for that client. It's not always about the money or the commission. And the young folks that come into this real estate business that focus so much on their commission and how much they're going to make, to me, they're going to be one-hit wonders. The reason I have people coming back to me 20, 30, 40 years later is because I treated them right. I did the right thing for them, even when it wasn't always the right thing for me. So I think that's an important lesson to pass on.
So you go from failure doesn't define me, success doesn't define me. Part of what defines me is how I treat people and how I serve others.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
It's good.
And, this wisdom, I hate to say it, but as you get older, you get wiser. And of course, my name is Wiseman. So I got to live up to it.
That's right.
I have to live up to
Brad Wiseman. That's good. That's so perfect.
But I really like, I like mentoring young people. I'm doing that now. I have a group of 5 agents that I'm mentoring. We just formed something called the Wise Group.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And
wow.
And I want them to be successful. I'm not doing it to make money off of them.
Yeah.
I will make some money off of them as I'm mentoring them and helping them and supporting them. But I want them to all fly. I don't need that, but it's something within me that I want to help. And I think it's a good mindset to want to pay things forward and share your wealth of knowledge that you've acquired over time.
There's this book called what is it called? It's called Fathered by God, and it's a really good book because it details the different stages of a man's life. It says it first, there's like 5 different stages. I can't remember, but it's like I remember a few of them. So when you're little, you go through your cowboy stage or boyhood. And then it's defined by like a cowboy's, like everything's, you imagine everything, with chasing the bad guy and doing all that. And then you step into another stage. I think it's called a warrior stage. And this is where you're conquering. So this is where like you conquer your wife, like you conquer her heart. This is where, you conquer a lot of different things. So it's the warrior stage. And then you step into your king stage, which is where you're like building things. Right. And so you're building businesses, building your family, building relationships, doing all this. And then you step into your sage season, where what you do is you find fulfillment you used to find a whole bunch of fulfillment in building. And it's not like you don't like that anymore. Right. You really enjoy it.
Oh, I do.
But yeah, you do. But now you really find satisfaction in mentoring young kings or even young warriors. Because that fulfills a different part of your heart, and it sounds like that's what you're expressing right now.
Yeah, and it's not a pursuit of money. It has nothing to do with that at all. In fact, if you pursue the right thing, even for your client, instead of pursuing the money will follow. The money will come. And I try to tell young agents that as they come into our office, don't worry about how much your commission is or what percentage you're getting. Think about what's going to best serve your client. And if you do the right things for your client, the money guaranteed is going to come and continue to come because you're going to build that kind of a reputation. So,
1,000%.
Yeah.
And those are lessons that are learned the hard way in some cases.
Yes.
In many cases. Yeah.
And I think having, I have a great relationship with my wife, Dolly. We've been together 30 years. It's our second marriage and our last marriage, as she says. And, being in real estate is a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to my job 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I work my job around the clock, 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. I take calls after dinner, before dinner. Mm-hmm. I get in trouble if I do it during dinner. Mm-hmm. I'm always there. I'm always available. And it takes a very understanding wife. So besides the understanding my wife, Dolly, has given me with the business that I am committed to and invested so much in, I've learned a lot from her as well about life. And let's say I'm a little mellower than I used to be when I was about your age.
I get it. That my biggest enemy right now is myself.
With all of us, we're all of our own worst enemies. Yeah,
the biggest ambitions. My biggest. Yeah, I'm like, because this is the thing. You want to serve your clients. Everything you're saying, like 100%. Like you want to be there for them, answer the phone, and do all of this. But then at the same time, here you have your kids pulling, attention from you and saying, well, I want you to serve me first before you serve. And your wife makes that known. And then she says, no, you better serve me before you serve anybody else. So how do you parse that? How do you live in that world and still serve your clients, but still serve your family well?
Well, like I said, my wife is very understanding. And I think when I was about your age, starting my career and having young children at home, I think I spent too much time focusing on making money and building my business. And I was there for my kids, but I think I could have been there in a better, different way. You can't go back and change things.
Of course.
And I always look at what are people's intentions. Was my intention to be a workaholic and, a dad that wasn't always there? No, that was not my intention. I love my kids to this day. Mm-hmm. I loved them then. I love them now. But I think I could have, tried to find a better balance back then.
What are those practical things that you say? Because although you can't go back, you can go back vicariously through me and through all the people that you're mentoring, And so if you could go back, what would those practical things be that you would change? Being a realtor and being in the real estate industry, knowing how demanding it is, knowing how everything's an emergency and there's urgency for everything.
It is demanding and it is a lifestyle. So it is a lifestyle if you're a realtor. And
what's funny? Like a little, somebody came, I forgot who I was talking to, and they were saying like all this stuff. And then they basically alluded in saying like, oh, I'm going to be a realtor for like a few years or something like that. And I'm like, why would you come into real estate? And like, cause whoever comes into real estate is here for life. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're a realtor, you're probably going to be a realtor for a very long time, So anyways.
And it's a great career.
Yeah,
it really is. You get to meet so many people. You get to help so many people.
Yeah.
It's very fulfilling to watch somebody get that home they've been looking for, or a client who's selling their home to maybe a lot of my peers now are selling their homes to move near their kids and grandkids. So that's the motivating factor.
Sorry, we were talking about, I asked you the question about what practical things you could do differently.
Okay. I think just to focus a little bit more on family and make business a little bit more secondary. But as you're building and you're, ambitious and young, like you.
Like me.
But look what you've done already. I've watched you from, from kind of the beginning, and I'm so in awe of your accomplishments.
Thank you, Brad.
And, you have faith in God, you have 4 children, you have a good relationship with your wife. So I think you're doing great, man.
Yeah. And but like I said, it's those, because you go from 2021 and 2020 making these numbers, and then for the same effort that you're doing now, it's like 40% less. You know what I'm saying? So then, I started different companies. I'm still not as profitable as I wish they would be. In the future, they would be, but it's the same mindset as a realtor. You got to think about these things as like 10-year increments, 10-year time span, like
it's
decade.
a moment in time.
Yeah, you got to give it that time. So that's my challenge right now. It's like I do have this drive and I do have this ambition, but I don't want to do it at the expense of my family. You know what I'm saying? And my wife.
Well, don't. My best advice is don't. Family is certainly first. Mm-hmm. It has to be first. And it's a balancing act. Even today, my kids are all grown and gone, and I talk to them almost daily, and I see them often, and my grandkids. But I have a wife at home, and I'm I start my day at 5:30 in the morning in my home office, and sometimes I don't get home till 7 or 8 at night, and thank God she's very understanding. But it's hard. You feel guilty. You want to spend more quality time. But in our business, when it's coming, like it has the last 5 years, you have to go with it. If you want to be successful and serve your clients, you go with it. When things slow down now, you have to work a little bit harder. You have to invest more time, money, creativity to reach the goal of selling these properties. But, you can also take some of that downtime to smell the roses and be with your family. Mm. So the balance is always the hard thing, I think, for us in real estate, family and business.
Yeah, that's it. And, a lot of our conversation has been kind of tailored around adversity. And it's just that challenge and that struggle and that it's that adversity. But I think that's what, if you take adversity the right way, I think you'll end up being wise man.
Well, adversity could be an opportunity if you look at it that way, and it's just a choice, right? You can look at it as something horrible. You can look at it as an opportunity. And if you look back at all the adversity you've had over a lifetime, which, at my age, you start reflecting on that stuff. Mm-hmm. Every adversity I had led me to something better. It had to happen. It was part of the plan. Mm. So don't fight it. Go with it. Learn from it. Mm-hmm. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'll learn till I'm done, till my life is over.
I love it. But I think about the amount of impact that you leave behind, living this lifestyle, living with this mindset, and living with the understanding that you're here to serve others. Things don't last forever, and a situation doesn't define you, but what defines you is how you serve others and how you're there for others. Think about the kind of impact you leave as a father, as a husband, as a businessman.
Right. Yeah, it's important. Mm-hmm. It's important. And I think the best way to teach people is through example. Mm-hmm. And even my kids, they see how happy my wife and I are, mm-hmm. and how compatible we are, and how much we enjoy each other's company. Yeah. And we go to a restaurant and people say, "Oh, you guys are so cute. How long have you been together?" They assume we're just started dating, Oh, just 30 years.
Just 30 years.
You guys are so cute, So I don't want to tell my kids, how to be a good husband or wife or father. I just want to show them, this is how life can be.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't want to tell them how to be a good husband, good father. I want to show them.
Set an example.
That's good. Yeah. That's everything. Because then it's like, it's not about the glitz and glam. It's about the ordinary things that you do every single day, day in and day out, that define who you are and show people what you do.
Yeah. I think it's the way, like I said early on in our conversation today, how are you processing this? Mm-hmm. I remember it was last year, I think, I said to my wife, "Oh, I have to do an open house on Sunday." She says, "No, Brad, you get to do an open house on Sunday." And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
She's so right.
Yeah.
And that's the way I always approach it now. I get to.
Like, things aren't happening to you, they're happening for you.
Right.
That's good.
Right. Yeah. we don't want to be victims, right?
100%. No, that's a big one. That's a big deal. And this is coming from someone that, like you had all the opportunities, many different opportunities to become a victim, from your adolescence,
Yes,
to even things that happen in your health, right?
yes, yes. I've had some health issues recently,
Yeah.
the last few years, but again, I'm not going to let that define me. And I'm, knock wood, I'm as healthy as I've ever been.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I refuse to give in to illness.
What does that mean?
It means I have an illness that I refuse to give in to. I'm not, it could be debilitating, but I'm doing what I have to do to manage it. And, it's important to me to stay fit, not only for my physicality, but for my mentality. So I've overcome this challenge that was very scary just a couple of years ago, and I'm doing well. So
Good for you,
rebounded from that one.
Come on. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this was good. This is
Thank
good
you.
for me.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you, Brad.
Cool.
Bye.